Welcome to the Industrial Talk Podcast with Scott McKenzie. Scott is a passionate industry professional dedicated to transferring cutting-edge, industry-focused innovations and trends while highlighting the men and women who keep the world moving. So put on your hard hat, grab your work boots, and let's go.
All right, welcome to Industrial Talk. Thank you very much for joining the #1 industrial-related podcast in the world. We are broadcasting live from the 29th Annual SMRP Conference here in St. Louis, Missouri. Wonderful venue, great location, and an incredible amount of professional reliability specialists, maintenance, asset managers, all here. Put that on your bucket list because that's an important place. If you want to be in this career, you need to be a part of SMRP. Also, I'd like to sort of thank Accurate and Fluke Reliability. If I go out to their website like I normally do, and I'm looking at Accurate, and I'm looking at their website, and it's real estate facilities and asset management. Gain the insights and transform how your organization manages its physical resources. You cannot argue against that. That is important. And Fluke Reliability, great website, full of incredible information, provides maintenance and reliability professionals the data to do the job, assets by asset, wherever they are. An incredible organization, great company, great people, great solutions. All right, hot seat. Michael, this is take 3, Michael. Just FYI, I want to make sure that everybody understands that we've tried this 3 times, and now we're on the 3rd time, and I think we're cruising.
We got it.
I think we do. I think we're cruising right now. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing awesome. It's been a great conference.
Oh, hasn't it?
It really, truly has.
Come on. It's been great to get together.
It's been nice to actually be in a place with human beings. You have no idea.
I have idea. Big time idea. And it was just like, you're right. You just realize how just humans just need that interaction, and especially when it comes to reliability and what we're talking about here at this particular conference. It has to be collaborative. They're dedicated to the education. They want to collaborate. They want to solve problems. It's quite the collegial environment. I like it. Now, for the listeners out there, Michael, give us a little background, a little 411 on who Michael is for the listeners.
So I have the privilege of being a distinguished engineer in IBM. That means that I help to oversee the technology underneath the Maximo portfolio for our monitoring application and our visual inspection application and some edge stuff too. So my background is actually computer engineering. I've always kind of walked that boundary between hardware, firmware, or operating systems and systems of record and all that kind of building up. So through my career, I've always kind of moved up that ladder of just stuff to the point where now it's AI and it's just fun, and the hardware is like way over there somewhere,
It is interesting. We're going to be talking a little bit about AI and really try to get some clarity into that. But the reality is do you find just the business that you're in, there is a velocity, there's a speed, there's for me personally, human side trying to keep up with it, it's hard. Is there what's happening out there from that just speed perspective? I can't keep up with it.
I mean,
I feel stupid every day, by the way.
That I have on my desk. I have sticky notes for all the stuff I have to do, right?
Right.
And one of the sticky notes is the power of yet. Like, not kidding. That is actually.
Oh no, that's good. I got to write that down.
And that word yet, that's an empowering word, right? Because that means that I don't get this at this point in time, but I'm going to get it eventually. Yeah. That is literally how I live my life.
But it's great, right? Because it's freeing. It's nice.
Right.
I like it.
And I don't understand how this thing works or why it broke the way it did, but we'll figure it out. That is very much what my job is.
See, that is just absolutely incredible. Now, you had you were running a workshop, or did you do it? What do they call it? I don't know.
Yeah, I did a talk in the in one of the tracks, right? So the whole idea was around trying to show how AI can help you with leveraging the data you've already got in your enterprise. Because there is so much stuff we talk about in the ability to leverage AI to go solve these great problems. You can go just see commercials, you can see examples in movies, you can see all these things, all this sci-fi stuff that happens. And the reality of that, it's hard to tell sometimes what's possible and what's not. right? So it's hard to tell what she could even do. So what I actually shared was a couple of different frameworks to pick up and kind of decompose the I 4.0 or Industry 4.0 or this AI thing or these AI projects and say, realistically, what are you trying to do, right? What is the intent behind why we're talking about this? It's not necessarily to fix a bearing. It might be to improve the quality of water for a given area. It might be to deliver a higher, cleaner power signal. It might be all these different things. The bearing thing is like a means to an end for it, right? In the same way that AI model is a means to an end for this solving this problem. So that's a lot of what we do. It's trying to decompose that. So in the talk, we walked through the ways of kind of picking this apart, picking apart what the intent is for the projects, looking at what this whole system might look like when you put it together. I shared an example from one of our clients and partners of this rolling freight thing from a train, right? This is one of the coolest things in the world. CN Rail can run a train through a shed in the middle of nowhere in Canada, and high-res images of that train, that specific vehicle with a specific stock behind it, will be taken, analyzed, run through a bunch of different AI models and a bunch of different rules, and it'll trigger work orders saying, hey, we found this, go inspect it, or hey, there's this that happened, right?
No way, really?
And that I would not have believed 2 years ago that was possible, right? And that's totally doable. And I love that that's the thing. So a lot of my teams that I talk with, we try to figure out how to differentiate the science fair experiments or the really weird dreams that someone might have as a fever dream from what's possible, right? And to be honest, a lot of the things I start with, I'll say that we can't do that. And we'll sit down and maybe a day or two later, oh, well, maybe that worked. That actually, has some legs to it. So let's keep going. So we talked about the different stages of projects and that kind of thing.
See, outside of the fact that I'm going to steal fever dreams, it got my attention because we've all had fever dreams and they are wacky.
Right.
But you live in a world like that. What you're saying, the power of yet. You live in that world where you have to have those conversations.
Absolutely.
It's almost, you have to be audacious in a sense, and then be able to sort of, like I think Kevin Clark was talking about Amazon. They have audacious, goals. You have to. Whether you at least you begin to have that journey toward it.
Right.
But that's what I see AI.
That's the entire thing, right? Everyone can kind of see that there's a thing there. There's a there
yes,
there.
There is a there there.
There's a there. So then, how do you get through to that, right?
Right.
So a lot of our clients and a lot of the stuff that IBM does is infusing AI into the systems, right? So when you talk about infusing AI, what does that really truly mean? That means I have to have the ability to collect data. I have to have the ability to analyze it. I have to be able to label it, train models, to validate models to say it's going to be correct and trustworthy, to update those things. And all the infrastructure that goes around that is necessary for that to be more than just a science fair experiment, right? You have to have those parts to put this into production and make it valuable for that human being who's just trying to go do a thing.
See, I hear what you're saying, and I think I'll be the first to geek out on this stuff. Absolutely. Now, I take a situation where, let's say, I apply an AI solution. Here's a motor, and I'm down on the shop floor. Here's a motor, and that motor is a unique motor. But this is another unique motor, and that has other parameters associated with the data, and then another, and then another, and then another. And how do you take that AI mindset and be able to apply a solution across, I can't say disconnected, but different assets that have different performance, standards and all that stuff? How do you do that?
You have to know that those are different, right? You have to know that you can't just take a model that you trained or a system that's built around this one asset and know that, oh yeah, it's going to work. What I did in Iowa is going to work great in California.
It won't.
Right? It won't.
It won't.
It won't.
Yeah.
And that's the pitfall people fall into, is they'll build something and they'll do a proof of concept, they'll do a pilot, they'll put together some demo, And that demo will be such a tightly constrained environment. There's actually a word for that in the space, right? You'll actually hear this word. It's called overfitting. So anyone's data-driven, right? You've overfitted your data set. So if I have a bunch of data points, right, and I'm trying to figure out good or bad,
right?
You know, there's a bunch of different ways. You can fit a curve to it, you can draw a straight line, you can draw a second-order polynomial, whatever, right? At a certain point, I can give you like a 35th order polynomial that will directly skew between all the different points, and it will be flawless for how you test it, but the reality of the world is not that.
No.
Right? So that kind of stuff comes up, and you have to know that this particular motor, this particular bearing, this system will have these characteristics, and that you should be able to understand these things about it. But I can't necessarily take the data from here and apply it to over here, right? I have to retrain the model from here to here. There's even a term for that too, transfer learning.
Transfer learning.
Transfer learning, yeah. We're gonna make you smart. We're gonna make everybody smart about this, right?
You have to. Okay, so here I hear what you're saying, and I understand, and I get it. But there are gazillions of assets out there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think I'm exaggerating. Gazillions. And I think that for AI, you have to really want to target where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, what do you want to try? What are we trying to do? But tell us or share with us what, this is where I see machine learning. If I can get something to sort of learn, and then learn, and then learn, then it's am I on something?
Absolutely. So we talk about AI and ML, right?
Right.
So AI is this general space.
Right.
That's trying to get a system to understand and behave and act like a human being and simulate like the kind of insights you might get out of a human being. Machine learning is a specialization in that, which is teaching a system about some data to make some observation or make some prediction about the future. That machine learning process, that thing is driven by data. It's driven by the ability to go pull data from the field and build a model of that representation and then make predictions based on that model, right? So if I take all the AI stuff away from this for a minute, right? I'm building a statistical model that can predict something about something. So given some input, here's the output. It's basically a bunch of linear algebra at the end of the day. Right. It literally is a bunch of linear algebra. So when you look at it from that perspective, it's given that data, how do I create something that can, given this information, produce something useful? So now the question becomes the data. When I talk about like pump A, pump B to pump Z or pump quadruple Z, each of those may or may not be different. Each of those may be part of a broader data set. So managing that information, managing the flow of that information from the field or into wherever you're doing the training or doing the AI stuff, right, or in that platform that's trying to help with predictive maintenance, that becomes such a key part. Because you have to be able to build it off of real life information. It can't just be simulated. It can't just be the one example
you're right
you got,
about that.
right?
Yeah. Why is this important? Should the industry do it?
It's about it. Well, let's take why are we talking about AI in the first place? AI is to help deliver those insights that a human being might have, but at a different scale, right? So why is, I think, something you can answer with, where can I drive efficiency or where can I help be a force multiplier for good here? That's very much how we define what we're doing. So when I look at like the stuff we're doing in Maximo around visual inspection, around our edge stuff, around our monitoring stuff, it's trying to say, we want to help be that force multiplier for good in this space to say, hey, by the way, I noticed this thing. So we have actually a client that's doing quality engineering. They are one of the marquee brands, right, that produce high quality vehicles. They are using our stuff to try to notice and fix problems ahead of time before they've sealed up certain things, right? And they're doing it all from smart device that has a bunch of sensors and whatever, right? And that's so cool. I love that force multiplier for good kind of thing. That's absolutely why this is important. Because if you look at it from a different perspective for a sec, if you're not paying attention to that efficiency gain, then there's a competition thing that might be happening or is probably happening in the field. But then B, you're losing out on a chance to try to improve things. And I think that constant improvement, that continuous improvement, and that's why people come to conferences, right? That's literally why you come here.
Exactly,
right?
yeah.
So
absolutely.
you have to, like, if you kind of buy that we want to be improving over time, this is another way to do that. It's another one of the tools in your toolbox. It's not the answer for everything, but it's one of the tools you should consider when applying to solve a problem, right?
The world that we live in, this is so intriguing. I'll give you an example. I was at a conference pre-pandemic, a couple of conferences. So I'm at a conference, we were talking AI. There's a body of people talking AI. And then I come back the next year, and the change that took place from this point to that point was enormous. And so it's up to you and professionals like you to help take this very dynamic, complex, to make it simple. To Eric's point, he keeps driving. It's got to be user friendly. It's got to be that way, because the masses are me and people like me, and I think that's key. And that's quite the power of yet.
Yeah, that's the thing.
How do people get a hold of you?
They can find me on LinkedIn. Find me on Twitter.
You were awesome. By the way, you were awesome on that doggone panel.
Hey, thanks.
You're
it was a pleasure.
Spectacular. All right. We're going to have all the contact information for Michael at industrialtalk.com. We're going to wrap it up on the other side of this break. So stay tuned. We will be right back.
You're listening to the Industrial Talk Podcast Network.
All right, once again, thank you very much, Michael, for being on Industrial Talk. And also, I want to extend an appreciation to Accurate or Accruent, and as well as Fluke Reliability for sponsoring Industrial Talk at the 29th Annual SMRP Conference. Now, you're saying to yourself, Scott, I want to get a hold of Michael. Well, go out to Industrial Talk, find his podcast, find his interview, and there will be all the connections that you need to ensure yourself that you're connecting with Michael. Fabulous conversation, incredible professional. All right, be bold, be brave, dare greatly, hang out with people who are bold, brave, and daring greatly, like Michael, and you will be definitely changing the world. And that's what industry, that is what manufacturing's all about, making our lives better. That's exactly. All right, thank you again for joining Industrial Talk. We're going to have another great interview coming from the 29th Annual SMRP Conference shortly.